Hello children and welcome to the session today. Children, we are going to learn about friction in chapter number 12 today. So in the previous chapter, we learned about things that were happening when we were applying force. Now, when we are applying force, there is something that is opposing the floor. For example, I roll a ball on the ground. Now this ball is going to continue rolling for some time until it is going to finally stop. What is the force that stops the ball? This force is known as friction and it is a naturally occurring force. So friction can be defined as the force which opposes the sliding or rolling of one body on another, and friction slows down a moving object and checks the motion of a stationary object. So we all have played the game of carom some or the other point in our lives, and we know why we use talcum powder on the carom board, so that when we strike, there is a smooth movement of the coins over the board. Now, to understand friction, we are going to understand these simple experiments from your book. Let us first understand activity 2. Take two boxes, one with smaller size and lighter and the other one bigger and heavier. Push the boxes one by one on the same floor surface. You will find that the bigger and the heavier box is hard to push in comparison to the lighter and smaller box. Therefore, it may be concluded that the force of friction depends on the mass of the object. Wasn't it interesting? Now let's understand another activity from your book itself. Take a glass marble and roll it on the soil surface using an inclined plane. Now using the same inclined plane, roll down the marble on a tiled floor. You will find that the marble rolled to a greater distance on the tiles floor. This is because of the nature of surface in contact. The rough soil surface offers more resistance due to more friction in comparison to the tiled floor and stops the marble from rolling any further. Now from these two activities, it can be concluded that friction depends on the mass of the object and friction depends on the nature of the surface in contact. So bigger the object, more is the friction, and smoother the surface, less is the friction. So rough surface will have more of friction and a larger body will face again more friction. Now, is this friction important? Yes, it is. There are certain advantages of friction. What are these? Let us understand. Friction is necessary and is advantageous in many ways. You can walk on the ground without slipping because of friction between your feet and the ground. Tires of vehicles like cars, trucks, bicycles have grooves in them to get a better grip on the road, thereby increasing friction. The shoes of players have spikes on the sides to increase friction and providing a better grip on the ground. The force of friction holds nails and screws in wood. A matchstick catches fire when it is rubbed against the rough surface of the matchbox because of the force of friction. An increase in the temperature of the match head takes place and the chemicals catch fire. Friction can be increased by making the surface rough, making grooves as in case of tires of vehicles. Friction is an evil and has many disadvantages also. Friction causes damage to machine parts which rub against each other, and this generates a lot of heat that can damage the machinery gradually. If you rub your palms against each other several times, you will note how heat is generated. Friction causes wear and tear of the parts of machines in contact, of the soles of the shoes and tires of vehicles. So children, we have understood the advantages and we've also seen that there are certain disadvantages of friction also. So we know that there is wear and tear of machinery that is taking place because a lot of heat is being generated. Then we know that hinges of the doors and windows get worn out after some time because of friction, and friction of air against a moving vehicle increases consumption of fuels, which we see in case of aeroplanes. So how do we reduce friction? In order to reduce friction, there are few basic principles. Let's understand them. Friction can be reduced by using lubricants like grease and oil. Very often a lubricant is applied between the moving parts of a machine so that the moving parts do not directly rub against each other. By polishing surfaces, marble floors are often polished to make them smooth. By using ball bearings between the moving parts of machines, this helps to convert sliding friction to rolling friction. By streamlining the shape of cars and aeroplanes, friction is reduced. So we have understood the basic principles of reducing friction. Now let us understand, taking the example of aeroplanes, boats, ships and high speed. So we have understood that whenever these vehicles are moving in the air or they're moving at a high speed, what are they facing? There is atmospheric pressure here, and this is known as drag. Now, in order to reduce the drag, what is the shape of the aeroplane? It is streamlined. And if you have seen bullet trains, even their front is this streamlined so that it can cut through the atmospheric pressure easily. Then this is how pointing in the front helps, as is mentioned in this point. Then we have covered lubrication, which means oiling of machine parts, oiling of hinges of doors and windows. Polishing of the surfaces also we have covered. And therefore, children, friction is harmful as it increases wear and tear. But sometimes it becomes very essential to increase friction. So how do you increase friction? In cold countries, there is a mixture of sand and coal dust which is spread over the ice to melt the snow. Mountaineers, athletes, football players, they all have spikes and grooves, which we have also understood through the video. And then wrestlers and weightlifters apply sawdust on their hand to increase their grip. And tires, footwears and caterpillar bells have marking, undulation or design in the contact surface to increase friction. So in this chapter, we have basically understood in detail how friction is an important element in our everyday life. We've understood the advantages of friction. We've also understood the disadvantages of friction. We've also understood how friction can be reduced or increased in order to benefit us. So I hope the concept in this chapter is very clear to you and you're ready to attempt the questions at the back. Thank you.